Today we are in the Heathcote region where we're meeting the family behind Munari Wines. I'm so looking forward to hearing about this rosé and everything else that happens here, so let's get started. So we're in Heathcote. Tell us about this incredible region.
Yeah, it's a really exciting place to be at this moment. We're just an hour and a half north of Melbourne.
So really close, really.
Such an easy day trip, and that's something people don't quite realise.
Yeah.
I think you can just get in the car and within 2 hours you can have explored the whole region, really.
Yeah.
Heathcote has a lot more cafes and restaurants and really things to see and do now.
Yeah.
When I was growing up here, that wasn't the case. And I might have mentioned to you earlier that I wouldn't have expected to see myself back here so soon.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to be here, and any day of the week I can, go out, maybe see some music or have a coffee or explore a winery.
Yeah, and there's quite a community of wineries here, isn't there? Like there's lots and lots to see and taste, and you're part of this fantastic little group of small growers and winemakers here.
Yeah, I think throughout the region you'll get a really personal experience.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit cliche, but it's true.
That's really true.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're still a lot of small businesses working together to try and build the region and increase people's visitation to Heathcote.
Yeah, and they're understanding that you're here and you're open and you're really excited for people to visit. When someone visits you in Heathcote for the first time, what can they expect when they arrive here?
Well, we've been lucky enough having this property, which even though at the moment the drought has made it not look fantastic, it has got a nice entrance. The house is pretty traditional, which was thanks to Graham fixing it up before we bought the place. We're lucky enough to have these old buildings that nobody thought to tear down, thank heavens. So where we are at the moment is that this is the old stables. We did build on a little bit here with the timber that we took out of the shearing shed. So it's recycled, and of course this is facing west, and so it's insulated too with that as well. So people they've got I give them as much time as they want, and I'm able to do that because we live here.
Yeah, such a great thing for someone visiting the region to have the time with the family and to have the time with the wines and learn from someone like you about what you do and how you do it, and it must be really nice to just have that relaxing interaction with people rather than the rush and the bustle.
Yeah,
do
and
you find that?
I bring up politics. I just say anything I want, actually. And then people quite like that because it's unexpected. Because sometimes, I'd be exactly the same. I wouldn't have been able to carry on a half an hour conversation picking apart all the different wines and stuff. So just, you can taste the wine, you can be talking about something else, what they do in Melbourne, or not that I would pry, but that they can be thinking about how they feel about the wine, and they're talking about other things at the same time.
Yeah.
And I always emphasise if they're that it's up to them if they like it.
Yeah.
It's all personal taste.
Yeah. So that idea of discovery, though, is really central to this establishment, isn't it? Because you're part of the Heathcote region, which has got lots of producers, and here you are down this beautiful little lane and this old historical building, and you're all here.
As we've said before, some like to go to a big winery where they can blend in.
Yes.
But others feel when they come to somewhere like us or lots of other small producers that they've actually made a discovery.
Yeah.
And they feel, and then they tell their friends and stuff, and it's sort of like, well, we worked this out and we enjoyed the wine, and that's that.
Adrian, we're here in your beautiful barrel room. Tell us how this all started.
Deborah and I were school teachers for, I was close to 30 years. So we just thought we'd look for a change, and I was always a country boy, born over in Seymour.
Yeah, right.
So it was time to move on. So we looked for probably near on 2 to 3 years for property. Missed a couple, and then we were very fortunate one day to come across this property.
This place.
And we spoke to that owner who was Graham Lewis, and he's been a long time friend, and we're still in touch. It's been fantastic, so we took it from there.
Yeah.
So we basically came in and Graham had already planted about 5-6 acres on the old side, and so he had a vision, and unfortunately got ill, and we're lucky enough to come along and take over the place. So hopefully, Graham, if you're listening, we've done it justice.
I'm sure you've done it justice. Look at this place.
Oh, well, this was going to be a garage, as I said before, but it's come up pretty well, I think.
And how did you learn how to make wine?
Well, I realised, I had a little bit of intelligence at the time, and I thought, well, if we're going to grow grapes, I better learn a bit about it.
Yep.
So actually, when I was teaching, I actually went to, enrolled at Charles Sturt and did Associate Diploma of Applied Science Viticulture. It took 4 years part-time, which was difficult for all of us, including Deborah and the
because you would have still been working.
Yeah, I was still working. I was still working in the city, and we had called residentials. Most I was lucky because I had a senior position in the school, so I was able to get a bit more time off during our school holidays to attend the residential schools. Yep. Might have missed a couple of days, but it was.
They just drink there
that's
anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I didn't drink. No, it was too hard. But so we did all that, and then really, I suppose that was quite exhausting. And then when we finally took over the property in '92. It was actually, we had 2 really bad years prior to that, unbeknownst to me, but 90 and 91, or 91 I think, and 92 were really heavy rainfall years. So a lot of downy mildew in the region. And so we came in, and of course there was a massive infection. So we sort of slightly got on top of it. But
work cut out for you.
Yeah, we did in the first year, and trying to get ourselves established. And then we had a bit of a fruit salad, a bit of this, a bit of that, and sort of things. And it wasn't my intention. I came in when I was 40. I was 40 when it was my birthday when we came in. And we couldn't get in because it was flooded. And all of us and the kids, we stayed at the local motel for the night.
Because you couldn't get in?
Couldn't get in, no. No. And so it was quite fun for the kids. And then so we got in that weekend and surveyed the place, got a few plants in place, and then, as I said, we had such a fruit salad that I wanted to sell the grapes, but I couldn't get a buyer to take
lots of different little
small parcels. Yeah. And so we decided that perhaps we should do it ourselves. So in 1993, this is still the shearing shed.
Yep.
And over in that far corner, I think I had my first 5 barrels. But so it wasn't my intention to be a winemaker until I was about 50.
Okay.
I just wanted to grow the grapes, get experience. I still had to teach, I still had to educate the kids and so forth. And because of that, we just found it was just impossible. And luckily, my brother-in-law Brian Walsh, was a chief winemaker at New Lumber, was an incredible mentor, and he sort of, with his advice and guidance, we were able to have the confidence to do what we did. So that's how we all started. And 26 years later, we're still here, so we must be doing all right.
India, you are second generation, so you've come back to your family's business. Tell us about how you're settling in. How's it going?
Yeah, it's really good to be back. I think when I turned 18 and moved to the city, I didn't expect to be back, maybe not so soon anyway.
Sure.
But I'm really happy to be back working with my family, building the business, bringing back some extra skills that I've learned in the last few years.
So you've been working in wine otherwise?
Yeah. I was a wine ambassador for a big wine company. We had several wine brands, and my job was to educate the market, to help people understand wine in a more easy to understand way, and build those brands in the market. So.
And now you can apply all of those skills to the home
here at home.
And so we've got a couple of wines here. Introduce Munari to me.
Wow. It's a family business.
Yep.
We only have a few employees.
Do you all have the same surname?
I'm the employee. They take their own wage, I guess. And we have a little bit of extra help at vintage time.
Okay. Yep.
But I work across the business. So during vintage, I'm in the winery as the assistant winemaker. During the off season, I'm in the vineyard.
Yes.
Slashing the lawns, helping prune. And then at the other times of the year, I'm, as I said, helping build this brand, doing the marketing, going to get into the city at some point and start building our distribution network as well.
Yeah, great. So, Deb, tell us about the labels because they're really distinctive. They're really quite beautiful. What's the story?
Well, my husband's grandparents emigrated post-World War I because Northern Italy, which is where they were from, was not a fantastic place to be then. So he came out, worked and then waited and then brought his wife and 3 children out, Adrian's father. The stamps are lira stamps, as in Italian lira stamps. Yep. They were set up by Italy Post, but they only went on overseas mail. And so, of course, as we all know, overseas phone calls and things like that, which were so expensive. This was the letters with these stamps would come to Adrian's grandparents, and Adrian, being a young man of creativity, he would save them and collect them, and so we had quite a number of them, and we have since found more when we've been in Italy.
And so, where do the images on the stamps come from?
They come from the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, okay.
And so it's Michelangelo. So they were from the paintings on the Sistine Chapel, and specific ones were taken out. If they're females, they represent wise women of the Mediterranean, and if they're blokes or males, they are various prophets or wise men who were seen by Michelangelo to be important.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so they're actual images from the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We've collected the pictures, so
wow. You're
got
very
them up
lucky
close.
to have that connection with the history and in the Italian regions and that whole letter writing.
It's just a nice relationship between his grandparents and his family.
Yeah, it's unique
us.
and it looks great on the wine label. We've got rosé here. Heathcote's really famous for Shiraz, and it's such a perfect match for the region and the grape variety. How does rosé fit in?
Yeah, I'm really excited about rosé. I think it's definitely the time for the rosé revolution.
Yes,
as we say. We still get a little bit of resistance in trying to sell rosé to everybody, but I always encourage people to try it.
Great. Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look. So our rosé is Sangiovese and Grenache.
Great.
So a little bit more of a savoury style. Generally, the region that you're based in would dictate the grape that you choose for your rosé. Yep. So you might expect it to be Shiraz, but Adrian, my father, the winemaker, he really likes a nice, crisp, savoury style. Yep. And they tend to be a bit better food wines too.
Yeah, they're a bit crunchy, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So this, although it has a really nice fruit-driven elements to it through the Grenache.
So Grenache being a French grape variety that's grown in Heathcote and all over Australia, what does that bring to a blend with rosé?
Well, Grenache has quite a thin skin and it has very fruity characteristics. Yeah. You also get a really nice light colour from Grenache.
Yeah, the colour is stunning.
Yeah, so
beautiful.
You can get a more red style rosé, which generally would be Shiraz based.
Yes.
And then the Sangiovese gives it a little bit more of that savoury element. Yeah. Again, it's a lighter grape, so you get a lighter characteristic in your wine. And I think the really nice thing about this wine is it's got this nice pithiness, sort of a pink grapefruit, really refreshing style. So perfect summer wine, but good for dinner too.
And really clean as well, and nice and dry, and just really easy to drink. That might be one to put in magnums next year.
We've said in the past, rosés drink responsibly. A good breakfast wine.
Brunch. Fantastic.
I also wanted to show you our Ladies Pass Shiraz.
Great.
2015, we just released it. And it's really the flagship of the property, of the estate. Okay. Ladies Pass is the geographical region that we live in.
Yes, I came through Ladies Pass.
You came through Ladies Pass, you crossed Ladies Creek, and you've arrived here at our Cellar Door.
So what's the story?
Well, The story of Ladies Pass, it's a fork in the road, a few hundred metres north of where we are. The story goes that back in the day of the bushrangers and the gold rush, the stagecoaches would travel up the road heading north, and at Ladies Pass it was a really good spot to be held up, to be
so it's quite
to be robbed. The story is that the bushrangers were quite polite because they'd bring the men out, but they would say, "Ladies, you may pass." So
that is such a great little
Ladies Pass
snippet of history. I love that. So you've named your flagship wine after this. Talk us through it. It smells amazing.
It's a good one. Our wines are all about sort of fruit purity.
Okay.
We're really strong in that, and because of the Heathcote climate's quite moderate, you get nice warm days but cooler nights. You get some really nice fresh fruit aromas in this wine too.
Yeah.
So the Ladies Pass is predominantly these dark fruit, brambly, you know, dark black plum, things like that. And an element of some of the wines from Munari and also Heathcote is sort of a black olive, herbal, briny element.
Yeah, I really see that in this. That, particularly that olive brine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of a strange thing to say when you're talking about these really bold, plush wines, but at the same time it just lends that element that brings it all back into check. You see balance and purity and freshness, and it's not just singular fruit.
Exactly right. It gives it a really nice
it's
variety
complex.
of flavour.
Yeah, great.
And we're all about really elegance. We want our wines to be fruit driven but well balanced.
Yeah.
Not too high alcohol, not too much oak.
Yeah.
Quite restrained flavour, and really one of the other keys is a nice fresh acidity to finish.
And you have this fantastic festival in the long weekend in June. So tell us about that.
So every year during the Queen's birthday in June, we have a community event called Heathcote on Show. Cool. And everyone's encouraged to do something different. You know, there's wine dinners, there's workshops, and our sort of little extra special touch is a full weekend of live music. Great. So we love music, you know, it's a really great vibe. Yeah. Bands rotating all through. So we're really excited,
So hopefully you get a rest between now and the start of June.
Yeah.
After harvest.
We've got,
you might get a week in if you're lucky.
Probably a week or so before we amp up again for the preparation. But it's all, you know, it's the passion, right?
Absolutely. In terms of comparing the climate of Heathcote to other regions, like where does it fit in terms of, is it cool climate, is it moderate? Like how do you describe that?
It's classed as a Mediterranean climate, and in layman's terms I would say it's like moderate weather. Yep. So we do get hot days in the summer, but the beautiful thing about this region is once the sun sets, you get a really nice cool breeze coming through, and you have really nice cool nights. So when you don't get wines, you get that, you lock in that fresh acidity as well. Yeah,
and that's what really underpins the Heathcote style, isn't it? It's sort of, it's not these huge wines that we see from really warm climates, and it's not really light on either. So it's really in the middle.
Really elegant styles and nice fruit purity, I think.
And cellar worthy as well. It seems, you know, really, we see these really beautiful characters come in at, you know, 3 to 5 years and then they can keep going.
Exactly. You get really well structured wines, really nice plush tannin, good acidity, and all these elements lead to like really cellar worthy wines.
Yeah, they're really balanced, aren't they? Yeah. Awesome. Oh, well, I think you should be proud to be back and to be in Heathcote representing.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to seeing what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Adrian, Munari is named after you. What do you hope people remember when they leave this place?
Well, that's a very good question. I hope that obviously people visit, they come here and they see a very inviting, very casual, warm environment. They can have a good experience in our Cellar Door because we've tried to do it with a little bit more old age appearance, I suppose, so there's a little bit more comfort. And And I think it's probably the most important thing that is not often, you don't often see around wineries, is the fact that when people do come in, they're actually dealing with the owners. The owners and the winemakers.
Yeah.
And which if I'm not, Deborah's generally doing the Cellar Door and obviously India, but sometimes I do come in, so people do get the opportunity to talk to all of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing, and contributes to a really good relationship. And I hope people understand that they do get individual service.
Yeah, and it's really genuine as well, isn't it? Because there's
I can say that, can't I? It is genuine.
Yeah,
yes,
it's absolutely genuine. Yeah, we're a family-owned business. Small winery.
We love people coming and enjoying the experience.
Yeah, great.
So hopefully it continues.
So it's at the very top of the list of things to do in Heathcote wine region, isn't it?
You must come and see Munari Wines. And of course come and see Panther, who loves loves greeting people. He loves it. So
that's a
don't
very
disappoint
important
Panther.
thing, yeah. I've had such an amazing day here at Munari Wines. The people behind this business are so genuine and their wines are stunning. I'm so looking forward to drinking this rosé. Cheers.
Whilst filming the Cellar Door in Heathcote area, our crew chose to stay at the Emu Inn. This award-winning bed and breakfast is a restored old miners pub which provides a romantic and indulgent experience. Spacious suites, comfortable and homely, with a quiet, welcoming garden. Join us for a peaceful weekend away or for one of our lively festivals or events. There's something for everyone. To book your stay at the Emu Inn, head to emuinn.com.au.
Hi, I'm Claire. Welcome to the Cellar Door. Today we are visiting Carlei Wines at both their Heathcote and their Upper Beaconsfield sites. We're going to taste and explore their unique wines. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's go. Sergio, it's your name on the label. Tell us how you got here.
How I got here? Well, that started a long time ago. I was 7 years old when I got indoctrinated into wine. See, I have an Italian background, and my grandfather, well, being a good Italian from Calabria, he had his own little wine cellar, and he used to make, homemade wine. And I remember he used to like to share his wine with me when I was a little kid, so I used to crawl down his little cellar. And I do remember my mother going a bit nuts when I'd come up a little bit inebriated. So I always had a fascination, and even when I was a little kid, my holidays used to always spend time with my grandfather, and we would go down the cellar and we'd make, he'd buy grapes from the local market. Back then they weren't great quality, out of South Australia, and so that's when it started. As I started studying more professional careers, I was doing a science degree at Melbourne University. I remember our analytical chemistry component was the analysis of wine for a whole semester. So we had this opportunity to analyse wine. So I was then introduced to the science of wine, not just out of books. And so I started, so what I did is, my first home, I went and dug a cellar out. And I created my own little cellar and I started making homemade wine. And so basically it all started in the garage. So I could claim myself to be a garagist 30 years ago.
All good wines start in the garage, don't they?
It does indeed.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby, and I've got some incredible memories because as I was practicing as a chiropractor, and I was studying wine science, and I remember I was living in Beaumaris, and it was really interesting because most people had their flash cars in the garage. I had barrels of wine. You literally have to crawl over the barrels to get in there, and I think there were about 30 or 40 barrels of wine by this stage.
Wow.
And it was, and I'll never forget the time when I used to have this basket press, and it was electronically operated basket press, and obviously unlike the country, your neighbours are only 2 or 3 metres away. And I used to practice till 9 o'clock, and then there'd be these grapes collected that we'd get off the vineyards from Yarra Valley. So I'd then process fruit all night and then go back to practice. And I remember I'd be running these presses, and they would little da-da-da-da-da-da all night. And the neighbours never complained, and I couldn't understand why. Then I eventually found out that the neighbour was deaf. So that worked very well. But that's where it really all started. And that's where we made our first commercial release We started making wine commercially in 1990 with the first commercial release in 1994.
Carl, you're the vineyard manager here at the Heathcote site. Tell me about your day-to-day job.
Well, my day-to-day routine depends on what of my different enterprises I'm involved in at the moment. So in the vineyard there's not a lot to do at the moment, so I just move on to sheep, livestock work. Yeah, my main work in the vineyard though is based around the soil really, that's where everything begins and ends sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
And so as an organic vineyard, the fundamental principle really is about keeping the soil healthy.
Yep.
How do you do that?
Well, I've based my theory on a couple of just fundamental basics really, that Mother Nature hates bare soil.
Okay.
And a lot of biology needs a lot of carbon to consume to be able to perform their functions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in a certified organic vineyard, you're not allowed to use certain pesticides and herbicides. So how do you control disease and how do you keep everything looking really beautiful and healthy? Is it a...
Well, it involves a fair bit of work, but in a conventional vineyard, your under row strip would be sprayed with a herbicide to eliminate any competition, and competition not only for moisture but nutrients.
Yep.
But as you can see, our undervine row is covered in straw, so it has the benefit of lowering temperatures, so keeping that environment friendly for all that biology that we want to encourage, which feeds into higher water use efficiency and brings nutrient to the plant naturally.
Yeah,
So-
and so you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of spare water floating around, so
Pretty
that's
dry.
a really...
Yep, it is a very big issue.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so obviously that effort under the vine area really helps with water management. Does it also help with flavour development? Like, how do you connect great wine with organic vineyard management? Is there magic there, or is there science?
I think it's pretty much common sense really.
Yeah.
If you've got nutrient availability, like if we've got our biology right, when that plant says, I want some copper today, I want some sulphur tomorrow, I want some phosphorus the next day, it's there
Sure.
available for them without me having to react. If I was in a conventional vineyard, I'd be having to try and react. Say maybe with tissue testing, and it says I want some, the plant needs this.
Yep.
But if I've got that suite of materials available,
It's all ready.
to go, and they can take whatever they like when they like, and that feeds through to the flavour profile in the end.
But what actually happened was, as I studied wine, because I was so engrossed in making wine, I decided to go do my wine science degree, which was my third degree by this stage, but never with the intent of going largely commercial. But I remember when I was working as a chemist, as my first place of employ, my wife used to say to me, gee, you smell like a refinery, because I was working in the oil industry. So I figured, geez, if I smell like a refinery, I must be breathing this stuff in. It can't be good for you. And I thought, well, that's not a good option. I'm out of here. So I decided to go into the health sciences because that was another love. And I chose chiropractic. What happened was when after 12 years of practice, I got caught up with that dreaded C. I got diagnosed with cancer when I was 36 years old. And the prognosis wasn't great. So from that point on, I started researching. I knew there was a relationship between toxicity and chronic illness.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing was that because I'd studied chiropractic and it was a more natural, holistic philosophy about how to manage health, so from being a doctor I now became the patient.
Yeah.
So I had to adopt those principles that I'd been telling other people to adopt. So I was now the candidate to test the theories.
Yep.
And so I did. So I embarked on a 2-year return to health plan. And how did I get in the vineyard? Well, I went and saw a lovely guy, a lovely professor, who said to me, 3 things you got to do, Sergio. And I said, what's that? He says, the first thing you got to do is throw that mobile phone away. So what he meant was, he said, you've got to sell your businesses. Get out of that. It's too much stress, no good. I said, all right, well, I'll do that. I threw the phone in the bin. I said, what's the second thing? He said, go buy a dog. So I went out and bought a dog. In this case, I bought a pointer, which I was to learn was a bad move because I wasn't a farmer. And the third thing, he said, go plant some flowers. And he says, come back in 6 months and let me know how you're doing. And that was Professor Avni Sali, who runs the National Institute of Integrated Medicine out in Hawthorne. He's a wonderful man, runs a wonderful institute out there. So what happened then, I said, well, I'm a bit of a practical guy. I'm not going to go plant flowers. I'm going to go plant some grapes. So that's how we ended up planting up a Beaconsfield. And that was in 1997.
Okay.
But from that point on, I had to make it a chemical-free environment because I needed to move away from toxicity. So that's where the organic thing came in.
Yeah.
And now we farm biodynamically. We're certified biodynamic winery.
Can you explain the difference between organics and biodynamics?
Sure. Basically, there's three types of, if you could say, agriculture. One is conventional, the other one is organic, and the other one is biodynamic, which is a specialised subset of organics. With conventional, basically you're only allowed to add ingredients that are government approved, but they can be synthetic. They can be natural or synthetic. So all those pesticides, herbicides, weedicides, all that stuff, as long as they're government approved, you can apply them in the vineyard. Now when we move to organics, effectively, basically you're only allowed to apply things that are natural, no synthetic material.
Okay.
There are minute exceptions to the rule, such as say sulphur or copper, which is really an element. You can add those. Now biodynamics embraces organics, but it goes one level further. What it does is it has a differing philosophy in the fact that both conventional and organic is basically a static process. You look at it, you look at a plant, you need that ingredient, you add it and you get a response. It's a very, what I call a mechanistic approach to farming. Biodynamics, as the word says, biodynamic means biology in motion. The thing about biodynamics is an understanding of the rhythms and cycles that happen on the planet.
Is it true that in the calendar, so you have a leaf day, a root day and a fruit day, and a flower day?
Yeah, the four elements.
And if your research has shown that when you pick your grapes on certain days, they show different characteristics. So talk us through the research that you've done that explores the differences in those cycles and those days.
Sure. Well, obviously, when I was researching biodynamics, you need to understand that the initial research was done on the potency of food, because I knew food was my, in a sense, chemotherapy. It was so my strategy was to detoxify the body and to just eat pure food, and it worked. I ended up getting a natural remission 2 years later. It was great. But the thing about what we're talking about here in terms of those four elements, the thing is those four elements are really extracted from the ancient Greeks when they talked about the four elements are required for organic matter to exist or life to exist. They talked about the element of rain, fire, earth and wind. And the biodynamic people just use a different terminology. For example, flower is the element of air, think of perfume. You've got water, which is a leafy part. So they call that a leaf day, and fruit is the fire day, and of course the earth is the earth. But the interesting thing about those four elements is when you put them together, you try and understand what they actually equate to. And basically, if we take a scientific approach to this, the element of air, carbon dioxide, the element of rain, H2O, the element of fire, photons of light, and the element of earth, magnesium and chlorophyll, what they described was photosynthesis. And the interesting thing about photosynthesis is that is the fundamental building blocks of organic material. Now, how biodynamics interprets that, from my point of view, is that equation was that process actually adopted or came about through the tincture of time. It was an evolutionary process. So it makes sense to think that those elements will resonate through the cosmos. So now what we're talking about here is nothing esoterical, nothing mystical, but more about gravitational fields. And we're now discovering that gravity has a really big impact on cellular function. So knowing this and knowing the research about planting 2 days for the full moon and new moon and repeating that, it became very clear to me that these cycles in nature were very evident. But no one had ever researched flavour profiles. So what I did is I embarked on, first of all, establishing with Carl this vineyard here in Heathcote, and it had to be totally pure, totally chemical free, totally virgin soil. And Carl's just an excellent viticulturalist, he's brilliant. And what we did here is we started growing biodynamically, and then we started doing the trials where we asked ourselves, okay, we know if we plant between 2 days for the full moon, we get a response. 2 days for the new moon, we get a different response. How about if I harvest fruit on the different elements? Will they taste differently? So we thought about putting a trial together where, for example, the element of earth changes the element of fruit, where there was a 24-hour window. So what we did is we alternate each row in harvesting, say from 6 in the morning till 11, and we would harvest that fruit, say on the element of earth, and then the next day we'd harvest on a fruit day. And we'd treat those two batches identically, totally controlled, measuring the scientific parameters, making sure the pH, BOMAs and all were the same. And whatever we did to one, the day after we did the other. And then we started this experiment in 2004, and we've done it with different varieties, and we're getting the same result every year, and it's variety independent, and you don't need to be a biodynamic farmer to get the same result.
This block here is Shiraz.
Yep.
Tell me your thoughts on the combination of Heathcote as a region and Shiraz as a grape variety. How do you see the quality of wine they produce? What's your take on that?
Once again, it's just simple basics. The climate suits them.
Yeah, sure.
It just suits Shiraz.
Yeah. And how do you describe the climate here?
Well, it's hot and dry most of the time. Yeah.
And the cooler nights though, or do you still get the warmth?
Well, no, through this, especially this season, through the night, it's we've had a hot season this season. But just speaking to my winemaker just now, he says that the 19 vintage is coming through very well. So,
yeah, I bet.
But it's really interesting to hear him describe the ferment and how quickly it went through. And like, it might be a long bow to draw, but the biology that's on the skins that go through into that process. That
it feeds the healthy ferment, doesn't it?
Feeds a healthy ferment. Yeah.
Sergio, we've made it to the winery. Tell us what happens here. There's a whole processing facility, but you've also got a cellar door.
That's right. Yeah, we do.
There's everything.
Yeah, it all happens here. That's right. So what we do, obviously we're a fully fledged winery here.
Yep.
We do all our processing here, as you can see, surrounded by fermenters and barrels.
Yeah.
When I started researching the work on biodynamics, I came across a book called Agriculture of Tomorrow. And that was a book written by a doctor who used biodynamics to the application of health. The very first chapters of the book talk about cosmic influences and the moon influences on plant growth. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I started reading about this, and this is where I learned about planting in different cycles. You got a different result. The plant was responding differently. So the question I asked is, would it affect flavour? We can physically see a change in size. How about the flavour? Let's look at that.
Because wine is about flavour.
That's
isn't it?
right. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the best wine we can, and it is all about flavour. And what we've got here today is experiment number 14. This is vintage 14.
Wow.
And we're getting the same result. So what we got is, what we basically did is we harvested each alternative row on the element of a fruit day, brought that fruit in between 6 and 11 a.m, would put it in one of those large wood fermenters that you can see around here. We would add nothing to it. We would measure the enological parameters, and measure all those scientific parameters to make sure that we knew where we were at, because we're doing a comparative study here. And then the next day we would harvest the remaining alternative rows on a root day, we'd measure them. We found that the enological parameters were pretty much the same. The Barnets the same, the pHs were the same,
Acids.
the TAs, the malics, we measured all of them. And we found that they were within 1 or 2%.
Okay.
So we were very comfortable that we were dealing with the same fruit from an enological point of view.
Yep.
What we couldn't measure was flavour. So
Yeah.
the test of time was to ferment these things identically.
Yep.
And then we would press the fruit day, the root day,
Yep.
and it would be racked into a vessel and then transferred to barrel.
Yep.
As you can see here, for
Yeah.
example, we have a fruit day, X-Wood 1, and then we have a root day, X-Wood 2. So they were the two wooden vats.
Yeah.
And what we're going to taste is a sample of each of those barrels. Now remember, they are exactly the same vintage, exactly the same vineyard. The only difference here is that we've fermented, we've harvested them within a 24-hour window. So what I'm going to get you to do is to actually try the fruit day and try the root day and just discover yourself what you think. First of all, do you think there's a difference or not? And if you do, how would you describe these wines?
Well, they're both intensely aromatic, which is wonderful. Like they've just got really generous.
Do you find the
aromas.
aromatics different?
Yeah, the fruit day seems more lifted and easier, more generous.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of, lovely lifted fruit characters, those sort of red berry fruits. I'm also getting a little bit of black pepper going on in that one too. On the root day, have a look at the root day. Now, those primary aromatics don't seem to be there, and this is what I found out. The primary, but what I've got is a more savoury.
Yeah, it's
earthier.
Yeah, I was going to say inky, like it's got this real savoury kick to it.
Now, in my assessment of these wines, I mean, look at the palate. I would say that to me, I enjoy both those elements aromatically. So to me, those are two incomplete wines from my perspective in trying to create a final wine. So if you look at the fruit wine, we taste it.
So the root day seems to push out in your mouth, and the fruit day is sort of more contained, isn't it? So I can see where you're going with this blending idea with the idea of shape and presence in your mouth.
But the other thing to notice is that the fruit day has got a lot of primary fruit. It's got freshness about it. Whereas with the root day, you got a lot of more phenolics, more tannin. So to me, when I taste these wines, I said, well, okay, this is interesting, because what I think we should do is to put them together and see what sort of wine we've got. Now what you do is when you smell that wine, I'm getting the savoury notes and I'm getting the fruit aromatic notes. So to me, first of all, this is a more complex wine. Now the good thing about this is that, and to me, it gets back to the model of my mentor, who was Rick Kinsbrunner back 30 years ago. We were talking about what sort of wines we're going to make, and he defined two wines. There's only two types of wine in the world: boring and interesting wines. I had to make a decision which wines I want to make. Well, clearly it was a no-brainer with Rick, because he makes super interesting wines. And he was very generous with his knowledge and time. He's amazing. I mean, we got on so well. And I think, to me, when I assess a wine, I go back to that model. Boring. What's boring? What's interesting? So
and this has got power and presence, and it's got this fantastically even progression from the front of your mouth over to the finish.
It's a big wine now. See how it's all come together?
Yeah, it's pretty muscular but also elegant at the same time. It's fantastic.
So if we had to really strip this down, biodynamics to me is just a very powerful tool that can be used in the winery. It's just purely, it's just a farming tool. There's no, witch's hat and broomsticks. There's nothing esoteric about this. And I mean, how this happens, no one really understands. Is it happening? Absolutely. See, the problem that people get tied up with, because we can't explain it, they have this belief, well, it can't exist. That's not true at all, because in the health sciences, there's a thing called clinical sciences. Now, that's not an absolute science. A clinician is a person who looks at the facts but then has a gut feel and comes to a decision about what's going on. In this situation, I basically did a clinical observation. the next step would be to measure these outcomes. If we could do this, and this would be a great PhD research project for a person
Putting
who wants
the word out.
Yeah. So
Great.
but this is what really excites me about biodynamics. And this is what I called applied biodynamics.
Yeah.
So we're using a tool out there to improve the quality of our wine, which clearly starts in the vineyard all the way through to the winery.
Yeah.
And so this is really what Carlei Wines is about.
Yeah.
This is really the essence of what it's about.
It's such a phenomenal outcome given all the work that happens in the vineyard and all the effort that happens in the winery. I think you should be so proud of these
we are.
wines, and I look forward to seeing them in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks,
It's
Sergio.
good. Well, thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.
It's been so fascinating talking to Sergio today and hearing all about the Carlei Wines commitment to organic and biodynamic wine production. They're open on the weekend, so if you're looking for something to do, it's a great place to visit. And otherwise, you can check us out online for more episodes.